This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, and welcome aboard. Here are some lovely impala on Tswalu Game Reserve. It's a little bit gloomy, and at the moment there's some drops that are falling on my face. But hopefully it won't last, and we'll be able to have a fantastic drive out this morning, not afternoon. There are impalas walking off into the distance, and won't you all jump on board for your live safari through the African bush? Hello everyone. We are getting our safari started. I've just seen the wildebeest herd that we saw, or a herd that we saw. Hopefully the same one. Yes, it is. It is. Remember yesterday we saw that herd that had that little calf? There they are. I don't want to get too close. My name is Tswalu, everyone, and I've got Theo on camera with me this morning. It's all leaking into one day now. Afternoon, morning. And here's that wildebeest herd with those tiny babies. There were two that looked a little bit older and one that was brand new from yesterday. Might be that one that looks a little bit wet. Just gorgeous. So we are here in the Sabi Sands and Tswalu Game Reserve, and it is your live safari. So why don't you send us your questions and give us your comments using that hashtag Wild Earth, as well as at FC and the YouTube chat stream. You can also go onto our website and register and use the question box to ask questions. And so yesterday when we saw them, we had them, and the mother was just bleeding a little bit still. And you can see that now she's got quite a bit of that afterbirth coming out of her. Oh, that must be quite uncomfortable. And this little thing is still trying to get firm on its feet. Yesterday it was so wobbly. I think we must have missed that birth just by about 20 minutes or so. That little one keeps going to her front legs to try and feed. It's the other legs, little one. Actually, this looks like a completely new one. Look at the length of the umbilical cord in this one. The one we saw yesterday, even though it was brand new, the umbilical cord was not that long. So this is a completely new wildebeest. Oh, another day of babies. This, I think, would probably happened a couple hours ago, though, because that baby is a lot more stable on its feet than the one we saw yesterday that kept tripping over. It's quite interesting that this is the second one we've seen, and both of the little calves, the one we saw yesterday and this morning, searches for the teats in the front of mum. Then they would synchronize their births. Oh, so cute. That little thing weighs about just under 20 kgs. Oh. And see how well that color works for them. They won't take on adult coloration or even begin to at this stage. It's only about 2 months they'll start to do that. And that's because this light color helps them camouflage a lot better when they're lying down like that. You can see that working for it in that grass. I feel like it's much better to have to go through the pain of labor when the sun is not beating down on you and when it's a little bit cool. And that's why lots of animals will give birth in the evenings or early morning, if not in the middle of the night. We are starting to get just a little bit wet, so we might have to take off our covers and pop them on. Michelle, you'd like to know if the afterbirth of the wildebeest will attract predators? It certainly can, but you'll find that once it does actually fall, she may eat it because there's a lot of nutrition in there. And she'll try very hard to disguise the scent. And even young calves will not have that scent of blood on it, and they'll clean them quite rigorously. We're getting a little bit wet, so we're going to have to take some time to put our rain covers on. Bubbles, you'd like to know if there's a chance of it going septic if it does not fall? There is that chance, but giving birth is the type of thing that's happened forever. And it going septic is more an exception than the rule. The possibility of it is not very high. For humans, it's a little bit higher because our birthing is a little bit more complicated and has been modernized quite a lot. Animals out in the wild are constantly exposed to the bacteria that's in the environment. And the afterbirth hanging like that is not an unusual thing. And it not falling would be very unusual. That's really, really special. So there'll be 4 little calves in this wildebeest herd. Oh no, you just got whacked by Mum's tail. Okay, let's put all our rain covers on and protect ourselves and the equipment, and I'll send you over to Grant. He's got a herd of his own.
Good morning everyone, and a very warm welcome to Ambient Pinder Private Game Reserve. And we found a really peaceful scene this morning. The reason why we stopped, we actually saw some impalas running, and on closer investigation we found that it was the young lambs that were all they had a little bit of a spring in their step this morning and were all just running excitedly. And so we came to have a look. So my name is Grant, and behind the camera is Glenn. And this morning we're going to be looking for a cheetah female with 3 young cubs that not a lot of guides have seen here on Phinda yet. And it's a bit of a tough task at the moment because she's moving from drainage line to drainage line. They're like sort of semi-den sites that she's using at the moment. And so there's a chance she'll be out, there's a chance she's hiding with those little cubs. So, but I thought this morning we'd give it a try because it's a cheetah that I'm dying to see. And just along the way we found this nice herd of impalas. And there are only, it seems like, 2 left in the open at the moment. What I'm going to do, Glenn, is just roll us back because there's quite a nice view of the lambs behind us. How's that, Glenn? Much better. There we go. So there's a whole little nursery of lambs here that are cleaning themselves and shaking off their ears, shaking their bodies, getting themselves ready for the day. And they have been running around. Oh, look at those 2. They're having a little bit of a play fight. So they've been running around, exercising, warming up their muscles for the day, and prancing around and showing some really interesting, different sort of running styles, and where they do this bounding thing where they go from their front legs onto their back legs and kick up. When they go onto their front legs, they kick out their back legs high into the sky. Look at those 2. Isn't that cute? So these little ones are still, well, these little ones are still, some of them are still under a month old, and so they are still very dependent on their moms. They are still suckling milk, and so spending a lot of time resting, but also very important that they move around and run and jump and build muscle that's going to be needed for at a later stage for when they have to run away from predators. And so their main focus is resting, growing, and building muscles and learning all their surroundings and also learning what they're capable of, how fast they can run, how high they can jump. But it's really sweet to see these little ones. And such a great time of year with all the babies around. There's all the impala lambs. I mean, yesterday that elephant giving birth was just incredible. And there's warthog piglets. I've seen quite a few zebra foals as well, and the wildebeest should be giving birth soon too. See, most of the adults' heads are down and they're feeding, but the youngsters are all up and looking around. And every now and then Mom is giving these youngsters a nudge, and one of the females is giving the youngsters a nudge. She's trying to encourage them to run around. And in the first couple of days, you'll see when mom has just given birth, you'll see her running around, just her and the lamb, and that's just to initiate and do that initial basic training phase where she will help that lamb to activate all its muscles, make sure it knows how to run, and get it ready for anything that might come. They do seem to be hiding behind the bushes every time we go backwards and forwards. But from this beautiful scene with these impalas, I'm going to send you across to Kyle, who's got a beautiful landscape. Ah, okay. So in that case, we're not going to be sending you away. I'm going to just roll back a little bit. Every time we move, these impalas go behind a bush. But I think for now they've settled where they are. And we'll see if we can get another view like that. It's just so cute to watch these little lambs. And they won't be feeding on vegetation yet, so their teeth are still forming in their mouths. By about a month old, they will start to feed on vegetation. So some of them might be reaching that age, and you'll see. Oh, there's one. There's two actually that are plucking leaves off of that little thorn bush. And in the early first few days, they will try to pluck leaves off and pick up grass and try to mimic mom, and but what will happen is they'll chew and chew and chew, and then they won't swallow that grass, so it'll actually just fall out of their mouths. But once again, we're going to try again to send you off to Kyle, where he's got a beautiful landscape.
Well, a very warm welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. And what a beautiful, simple scene we have got going in front of us. I like to try and live by those simple words. Simple is beautiful. And it is. Just a road with the scenery is just a magical scene in itself. Very good morning. My name is Kyle, and behind camera is Owen. Very, very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this fantastic and very creative morning with all the clouds. We are traveling south. This is directly due south, and we are just meandering slowly, and we are looking for cheetah tracks along the way. We have left the eastern sections. We did 2 tracking exercises yesterday, finding both prides, both on kills. And unfortunately, where they were, with these beautiful dramatic mountains, it was inaccessible for us to actually broadcast. So we have changed tactics, because if you look at general lion behavior, they would still be on those carcasses this morning. So we thought we would try and look for another carnivore this morning, which would be cheetah. So we are traveling south, and we are using this road as a boundary line to see if there's any tracks moving across it. And from there, obviously, we will have a direction in which we can move. But along the lines, we are looking at birds, and we are just absorbing all these beautiful sounds. I'm going to keep quiet for a few seconds, just to allow you folks to tap in. A little bit of cloud cover is always a very welcomed object, just to keep things a bit cooler for a bit longer. Oh, look at those colours in the cloud on the left here, Owen. You can see distinctively two different layers here. There'd be a very high, wispy, very fine, detailed glob in the central part there. That'll be a part of your cirrus. And then this low-laying, almost uniform cloud mass moving quite quickly on our left-hand side. That'll be more of an altostratus. But just very, very creative this morning. And it's always important to appreciate all aspects, especially the very simple things like clouds, because sometimes it can be some of the most entertaining things you could look at. I still do that at my current age, as I look at clouds and I almost imagine a picture, different shapes and different forms creating different pictures. So constantly keeping myself entertained. Beautiful colours. Some nice coolness about this morning. Taking nice deep breaths. And allowing all the senses just to tap into this free energy. So where we're going to be ending up is down south towards that mountain range at the end of the road. It's still quite far. It's a good couple of kilometers we've still got to go. And we're going to end up at that pan that we visited about 2 weeks ago, I think it is. And that's where we're going to really start looking for what we want this morning. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Trishala, and she's at the hyena den.
Well, I wish you all the best for your journey to find some spots, Kyle. Our spots here, we're very excited to see, because that's June. And her nipples are exposed where we can see them. So if that little cub comes to suckle, it has to come out of the den to do so. And that is going to be what we've been waiting for. This little one, though, that you see there, that's Hearts. Just hanging around for some support. And it's good to see that June is by herself at the den. And then we may be able to get the opportunity to see the cub, because especially if Heart is here, then we most definitely won't. Just a bit of irritation. It's important to remember that even though rank is a very important thing within hyena society, they're still all part of the same clan. And every bit of behavior is not an indication of rank, not every little thing. So sometimes they can just get irritated. Maybe Heart's little one just bit the wrong spot. And there's just a bit of irritation. And then also when they're at kills and things like that, they move and work as a clan. Oh no, June. So yesterday when we were here, the cubs were also vomiting, so I'm not sure what they've all eaten. And June's just gone to investigate that spot. I can still see her. She's just behind the tree there, yep. just hoping that she'll come back and sit where she was sitting, because that was ideal. And there goes that hope. Okay, at least she's sat down there, which means that we can still sit here. She's still within sight, so maybe she'll come back. Maybe the cubs will come out. We'll just have to sit and wait. Patience pants for Theo and I this morning. Let me send you over to Tristan for a bit of an update and see what he's getting up to.
Well, let's hope that little one finally emerges for Trishala. She's been showing great patience in order to see that new cub. Right, before we get into what I'm going to be doing this morning, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Gert, and we are, well, as you can see, slowly bumbling about. We're going to be heading to Torchwood a little bit later to go and see Thandi and the cub. They've got them there, but there's a full lineup of sightings, so we'll wait until everyone is done and then we'll head in that direction a little bit later. So I thought until then I was just going to bumble a little bit on Buffel's Hook. You never know what we can find. Maybe Tlalamba, maybe Mhlangula, maybe Luna. She's been seen a few times this week actually. So yeah, we'll see what we can get. I'm going to check one of my favorite little pans that is just in front here. It's not one that is seemingly that busy. It doesn't seem like a lot of animals spend time here, but I also don't think it's checked all that often. If you look by the state of the road, you can see not a huge amount of vehicles seem to come here. And I like this little dam. I don't know why. It's got some charm to it. I've never seen anything here to make me enjoy this dam. But it's a little pan. It's got this kind of dam wall. There's not a road that bypasses it, so you've got to kind of make a detour to come down here. And it just seems like it's got potential. I don't know if it really does, but I just like it. There's something about it that makes me want to come and check it all the time. I feel like because it's not on a main route and you actually have to detour to come down here, I don't think it gets checked as much as it should. And so maybe things go unnoticed here. I'm sure Tingana, Tlalamba, they must use this dam quite a lot. It's in their kind of area. But today, not much other than a white-faced whistling duck on the other side of the dam. It's just kind of milling about. If you see down there, you'll be able to pick it up. Strange that it's on its own. Generally, white-faced whistling ducks are in small groupings together, or at least in pairs. This is the first one that I've seen on this side. I actually haven't seen too many of them. In fact, no, I have. I've seen up at Big Dam and Kaiamanzi. There's quite a few up there, but I haven't seen any on Juma yet. So maybe this is them slowly starting to come down. They've got a beautiful little whistling call, hence the name Whistling Duck. And markings are rather pretty too, with that white face and black and then russet neck that comes down into the body. You can see there's a bit of kind of grizzly striping on the wings as well. What are you doing here all by yourself? It's obviously looking for others at this stage. They will be fairly busy at the moment with the summer rains. You find them kind of all over the place during the summer months, and soon there'll be little white-faced whistling ducks all over the place, as well as comb duck or knob-billed ducks. I keep saying comb. I don't know why. The name was changed to comb and then back to knob-billed duck. But you'll find that there'll be lots of those running around fairly soon. All right, I think let's leave our whistling duck. It's just taking it easy. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find. Unfortunately, it sounds like a hyena has just stolen the kill from Thandi and cub, which is not ideal at all. They hadn't hoisted it yet, so it sounds like it's been stolen. Oh, Thandi, why you don't put these kills up trees, I don't know. It seems as though if it's not a duiker or a steenbok, it's just not interested in hoisting. The little male is still too small to be able to hoist a kill of that size, so it'll take a bit of time for him to learn how to do so. But events like this where hyenas steal from his mom and him will teach him that later in life they need to, he needs to be able to hoist to keep his food rather than lose it to hyenas. It's quite gloomy weather today. I wonder if maybe we're going to see a little bit more activity from a lot of the sort of nocturnals. You never know, maybe things like civets. It's always good weather for a civet to be running around still. The red-crested Koran calling to my left, making a bit of a noise. So we'll just have to scratch around and see what we can get. Like I say, we'll eventually end up at Tundi in the Cub, but for now we're going to see what little gems Buffelshoek holds for us.
It just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I? It's like that is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo, you'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable, they're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
We are just sitting tight, and June is too, but otherwise things are pretty quiet. So we are just going to sit here, obviously get the lovely smells of the den. It smells particularly horrid for this morning and yesterday afternoon as well, with all the many activities that were going on. That's why we're hanging back just a little bit, so we don't have to taste the stench of the hyena den. It's not the usual smell. It's just because of everyone's bad stomachs yesterday. I don't want to move and reposition so we can see her better because I prefer to have less distraction. And also it's not like she's going to bring the cub out there. The cub is in the den, so she'll need to come here where we have a good view. And if we move, we'll have to move then, and then when she comes here, we'll have to move again. When there's more of the cubs out, everyone seems very much more comfortable with our presence, and then it's a little easier to move. But for now, we're just going to stay put just like this. Just wanted to let you know, when we started and we had those wildebeest and we had that question about the afterbirth, we actually saw them run in the distance after we had on our way out of that sighting. And because the afterbirth was in a pendulum shape. It's heavier at the bottom, sack-like. As she runs, it hits her back legs, and it just became looser and looser and looser and looser and longer and longer and longer. And it most definitely would fall, probably in the next few hours. If she keeps running like that, probably in the next few minutes after that. But then she stopped, and then it was still hanging just a lot lower. All mammal bodies are just miraculous in their ability to recover from birth, because it is the most natural thing. And like I said, it's been happening for as long as animals have existed. It's one thing we don't need to know how to do. Our bodies know how to do that. For June, that birthing process would have been a difficult one, as with all hyenas. But at least this not being her first litter, it would have been a little bit easier. Now, because she has, like all female hyenas, a urogenital canal, she gives birth through that pseudopenis. So that's very, very difficult for her. Very difficult indeed. But when she has her first litter, often that's one that's lost, then it kind of stretches it out so she can give birth with ease. We're still going to sit here. Of course, I'm going to send you over to Tristan with the giraffe.
Well, while Trishal is with hyenas, we've found a spotty creature in the form of a giraffe. There's also a warthog that has just panicked and ran away from us all of a sudden. That's quite funny. This warthog came down, obviously didn't realize we were here until it came around the bush and then saw us and had an absolute meltdown and has just run away. You can see the giraffe is a little bit like, oh, what's going on? Looking in all directions. There's a couple of them kind of spread out. Giraffe are obviously animals, when you see them sometimes staring in one direction, they can really indicate something. And so initially when I first kind of was going, I saw one giraffe just staring, but it seems to be just staring at this giraffe. It's on the other side, and the two of them are kind of looking longingly at one another at this stage. It's actually nice to see them. I haven't seen many giraffe at all since I've been back. I don't think I've seen one, to be honest. But up here on Buffelshoek, there's quite a number of them. There's good habitat. They've got a lot of acacia thickets that they can go towards to go and feed. I'm going to go forward a little bit because the view of that is terrible. Behind those bushes, it's a lot more open over here. And so you will be able to see this female a lot better. And like I say, she's not on her own. It's quite typical to see males on their own, but generally females are not by themselves unless they've just given birth to a baby, in which case they'll obviously be looking after that little one, and then they reintroduce it back into a herd structure. But these guys are famous for their temporary associations. They don't really have a defined structure, so you won't see these guys having a dominant male and a harem of females or a matriarchal society or anything like that. It literally is just come and go as you please. If you feel like staying, stay. If you don't, then go off and do your own thing. And everybody kind of mixes and matches and changes all the time. And that means that they genetically quite varied, because you're getting males that are drifting into different places and females that drift into different males' areas, and it just kind of is a big mix. And the reason why they do that is because they're actually quite picky feeders, and they need to find certain food items. And so they travel quite a lot, giraffe. People don't realize that they can move a lot, but you'll often find them kind of going and trying to find certain food items at certain times of the year. So when we have knobthorns blooming, you'll find our giraffe numbers are quite high in the areas where knobthorns are blooming. They come down from the north and of the Kruger through the Mopani Veld and then down to where these knobthorns are, and then they feed quite heavily in this area. The giraffe is quite aware of what's going on. I don't think there's anything around, even though it's kind of looking very intently. You'll find that there's impalas and warthogs around, so they all indicate that there's probably not too much here. Bonnie asking, how long do giraffe go without eating? Not very long at all, because they are ruminants. So these animals are like impalas. They have to eat and regurgitate food and rechew it and gain all the nutrients from there. So these guys are eating pretty much every day without eating, empowering a big body like that. Given that, you know, the vegetation that they feed on, they require a lot more of it in order to sustain themselves than maybe an animal that is eating a lot of protein. And so, yeah, they will feed every single day. They can't go without food for very long at all. And they don't really have to worry about it, let's be honest. There's so many trees here that they're able to find the food pretty quickly. You can also see how well they camouflage. Everyone always thinks a giraffe is easy to spot. But there you go. That just shows you how quickly a giraffe can disappear. Good. Let's leave our giraffe then, now that it has disappeared, and see what else is around. Like I say, there's a few pans here. I'm pretty sure that giraffe is just staring at the other one that's further down, and not any predator or anything like that. Something in my shirt that's making my back feel all funny. Anyway, maybe some little creepy crawly that's milling about in there somewhere. Alright, so we're going to carry on scratching, see what else. Let's send you across to Grant. I think it sounds like he's doing a bit of nest watching.
Welcome back, everyone. And look at what we have here. So as we were driving along, Glenn and I were just chatting, and we were saying, it's quite a quiet morning this morning. We just need something we need some alarm calls or something to energize and excite us this morning. And we were just sitting listening, and I could hear the chirping sounds of this sunbird, and looked up, and we saw the little female actually hopping around in the tree, but she'd spotted us, and when we saw her, she had some nesting material, like some web and leaves clumped together in her mouth, or in her beak, sorry, and she was hopping around the tree, but she was watching us. She was nervous to go back into her nest. She didn't want to give away the position of the nest, but I mean, it is quite out in the open. But when you look at it at a quick glance, it just looks like a big spider web. So we get a communal nest spider in this area. It looks just like that. And what this little sunbird is doing is she's collecting little bits of web and soft leaves, and she's... Oh, there. Did you see that? Go down to the left. There's the male has just arrived, and in the little hole below and to the right of the male is it looks like a sparrow. And so the sparrow and the sunbird, you can hear the sunbird going. That's the scarlet-chested sunbird. He was just having a fight with that little sparrow, and they seem to be sharing the same tree for their nest. So the sparrows are in the little hole. You can see the two of them poking their head out there. Those are grey-headed sparrows. And the sunbird's nest is way up high in the top reaches of the tree. So that was quite exciting. It looked like the male sunbird was tussling with one of the sparrows, trying to claim the tree for his own. But it's quite interesting that both of the birds have found a little nesting place on this tree. Thanks, Jamie. I'm assuming that you're talking about that little sunbird's nest. We're going to go back onto it now. You'll see that there's a tiny little hole, and so it is incredibly intricate. And I'm having another look with binoculars, and it actually looks like it might be an abandoned communal nest spider's web, or communal web spider, and the sunbird has actually just extended onto that nest or web that was left by the spiders. And you'll see there's a tiny... There comes the female again. Look, look, look. And she's just coming back with little bits of nesting material every time. And you'll see if she goes in, then you'll see the whole nest shaking as she's using her beak to just wedge that new little piece of material into the structure of the web. Of the nest. Look at that. The whole thing shakes. So from one nest, I'm going to send you across to Taylor, who's got another nest.
Well, it's a very gloomy morning here at Prideland. We've got some Egyptian geese that were perched quite nicely up in a leadwood tree not too far away from us, but now they've flown all the way to the other side of the dam, as you can see. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi. And like I said, we are here at Pridelands, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger. Now, I have a suspicion. We can have a look at the buffalo weaver nests that are up in the top of that dead tree. There's a section of this buffalo weaver nest that is flattened out. You can't really see it from the side. You can only see it from the northern side of the dam. And for the last few days, I've been seeing the Egyptian geese spending quite a bit of time actually standing up on the nest. So not quite there, but I don't think you'll be able to see it, Seb. It's kind of, there, but then on the other side. I don't know if those Egyptian geese are nesting on that side, or if they've started laying eggs, but they're definitely spending a lot of time, not just perched up on the branches, but actually physically standing on the nest that was built by those red-billed buffalo weavers, which you can see flying around. Egyptian geese can nest on the ground. Actually, in South Africa, most of the time, they'll nest on the ground. However, I'm sure you've seen it, or some of the long-time viewers will know that the Egyptian geese of Chitwa Dam love to nest up in the middle of Chitwa Dam too. But anyways, nothing that we can confirm just yet. But hopefully we will get some kind of a chance to see it. It's a nice, safe place though, up there over the water in the middle of nowhere. That's of course why these red-billed buffalo weaver have also chosen to nest around here. Not that you can really see what's going on. It doesn't look very cozy, does it? Because it's made all out of sticks with lots of thorns and spines on it. That's the nesting material that the buffalo weavers like to use, again, and additional defense. They really put a lot of effort into trying to keep their, not just their eggs safe, but the chicks, and also, I suppose, the females that are living in here with the male. But inside those sort of prickly, the mess that it is, there'll be a couple of chambers which they'll line with softer material. But that's kind of it that we have at Ndlovu Dam this morning. Normally it's a lot busier on the warmer days, but because it's quite cold and gloomy, we probably won't see much at all. Jim, yeah, that buffalo weaver nest is huge, isn't it? We're going to have to leave now just because there honestly is nothing going on at this dam, unfortunately. So we've been driving around. I did find leopard tracks, so who knows? Maybe we'll find a leopard. I don't know, probably not, because where we have tracks there's also a troop of baboons moving through, and I doubt that the leopard would be around if the baboons are there. Well, at least the baboons would have told us if they had seen her. I think it might be Pixie Pan. It's hard to also see tracks in this weather. They're not being much light, so I thought I saw some cub tracks, some sub-adult tracks, but we shall see. We're just going to carry on, really, and see what else we can find. Probably head into Buffels Hook, which is a corner down, not in the Sabi sand, but we'll probably head down to the southeast and see what's happening there. Right, off we go across to the Kalahari to see what Carl is up to this morning.
Well, welcome back to Tswalu. And my brother, here in the open plains, we have located. That is a big male chakma baboon. And he's busy foraging at this point in time. So, look back at us. That's a big individual. You can see it's a male just from his sheer size. Females would be a little smaller, a little more petite in body structure. Males are very large, heavily built individuals. And what this individual is feeding on now is various things. Flowers, if he picks up seeds from little flowering plants, insects. They are omnivorous, so their feeding or their diet consists of multiple things. So it might be plant matter at certain times of the day, and it might even be meat or animal matter, omnivorous. Very wide range, and their stomachs are very hardy to deal with some very toxic plants out here. There's a bit of commotion going on. A bit of vocalization from the troop, which is just on the left-hand side through the thickets there. We're just waiting for them to come through. And if you look at troops out here in the western section of South Africa, they are smaller because of the arid environment in which they are in. Food is sparsely set, and that means, different species, your population or your group size will be smaller at that as well to fit within the environment. And what would have your starling? Sure, a little bit too quick there. A nice little group of wattled starlings just flew over us. But these baboons, there come some more. Wow, beautiful. So these baboons would have been residing in the mountains. That's where they sleep. Let's get a charm. Baboons are very versatile animals. They have the ability to obviously feed on multiple food items, and then as well as having opposable thumbs is such an amazing advantage. Like us, we can hold things, we can utilize different things because of these bending appendages we have. Thumbs. Opposable thumbs are very important tools. So it allows them to not only forage on different things, but allows them to climb. So the mountains here on Tswalu, the Coronaberg range, is a perfect environment where these animals can seek refuge. They will sleep in the mountains at night, but in spots which are inaccessible to that of lions and leopards, because lions and leopards will predate on them during the cover of darkness. So having an opposable thumb where they can grab is a very, very big advantage for them. But they are very versatile in their habitat. Obviously, being in a troop, it's safety in numbers as well, so they can actively defend themselves from a lion or leopard. And there's been many records of leopards being killed via baboon. Oh, there's a nice wildebeest over here for us to look at. But very, very strong animals, and they will not hesitate to attack. Those big canines. Wow. So canines out of males can be larger than that of leopards. Very large canines. Good morning, Mr. Wildebeest. Oh. Beautiful blue wildebeest here. Obviously a little different to the ones that we have been previously looking at with Isaac and Tim in the Mara. You would have a whiter beard up in East Africa. Obviously you have a variant of this animal as you go up into the continent. But this is the southern individual, blue wildebeest here. And this is a bull. You can see from his body shape, his behavior, standing solo. This is definitely a bull. Male and female have. Oh, look at that. What he's doing, folks, he's going to go to the toilet soon. You can see how he's pawing the ground there with his front hooves. Normally they do that, they displace a bit of soil. He's going to do a bit of rolling. Or he's just going to rest. So they have these little areas that they will roll in. They'll defecate and they would roll in these little pits to coat themselves with their own scent. And if you think about antelope, a lot of communication is done via sense of smell, olfactory. And what they're doing there is that they've got sebaceous glands. So glands found throughout the body. And what they are doing when they come to these pits is that they're rolling in these pits, and they are basically masking themselves with their own scent. Your scent out here is your signature, your name, your everything out here. Oh, look here in front, in the road. Oh, on the tree here, there's a shrike. Oh, wow, here's a new bird species for us, folks. You can see from the body shape and as well as the beak that this is a shrike. If Owen can punch into it there for us, you'll see there's a distinctive hook at the end of the beak. Oh, there it goes. To the next little acacia. Beautiful. And what we were looking at is this nice grey cap. And then if you look at the dorsal section of the bird, also nice and grey. So it's different. The colour scheme is different to that of that common fiscal that is very prominently seen out here. This is a lesser grey shrike. And looking at its colour and its behaviour, yeah, lesser grey shrike. What a fantastic bird to see early morning like this. And why I'm so excited is that this is a fairly common non-breeding migrant to Southern Africa. What we refer to as a Palearctic migrant. Oh, he's gone. Ah, naughty little bird. Beautiful flash of green in this area as well. And this green, the grass itself will push on to about March, April, about March, until the temperatures start dropping, and then we start going into the winter coat for the Kalahari, which will be uniform brown, light brown. The trees, the acacias, the vachilias, will still remain green. Well, yeah, so from now until about March, this green flush of grass will persist. And then we'll start going on to the Kalahari's winter coat until the next favourable rains approach us. Oh, there's the shrike. Onto the shepherd's tree here, on the left-hand side of the shepherd's tree. There's it back here. There's another one here. So this is a pair.
That's back.
Fantastic. We're going to just observe this bird and just watch its behavior. But we're going to send you off somewhere else for a short bit, and we'll see you back this side.
Welcome back, everyone. And we moved on from that little sunbird that was building and adjusting its nest. And just a little bit down the same road, we've found this Wahlberg's eagle there are some really pretty bird calls and things going on at the moment, so we're just going to sit for the next minute or so and just listen. Wow, the birds are really active this morning. I think because of yesterday afternoon, we had a storm in the afternoon and a little bit of rain, so the birds would have been shucked up trying to avoid that weather. And so this morning they're really active, making sure that everyone knows they're still around.
She's still lying down. At least we can see her a little bit better now. And we're in the same position as we were, still staking out the den. And we're talking about birth on today, the second day of babies. Yesterday we had a great day of babies. And I really hope it'll continue today, with us being lucky enough to see this little one. Are you talking about how giving birth would have been for her? This is her second litter that we know of. The first one being the litter with Sutu in December of 2018, or end of 2018. Though the first time a hyena gives birth, it's a very, very distressing experience, both for the mother and the cub or cubs, because there's a narrow kind of a neck on the pseudopenis that has to stretch in order for the cubs to come out. This may make some men a little bit uncomfortable, but that's what's got to happen. And what ends up happening is that the cubs become detached from the placenta, because that canal is so long with having to go through the pseudopenis as well, that the cubs detach from the placenta before they can actually breach. And that means that the time that they have to get out is very, very short, because now they're not receiving oxygen, not from the placenta and not from the air, because they haven't come out yet. And when you need to kind of break that neck in the pseudopenis, that can take a long time, and many cubs die in that process, and hyenas too, hyena mums too. That cub could get stuck, and then there's infection and all that kind of thing, and the mother can die, as well as bleeding. So it's a very risky process with hyenas. And we were talking earlier when we saw the wildebeest about what a natural thing it is to give birth. It certainly is, but there's some animals that have it a little bit more difficult than others. Either way, it all plays into their survival rate and their role in the ecosystem. And sometimes things like this are natural population controllers. But once she has that first litter and that neck is broken, then the births after those are a little bit easier. In fact, a lot easier. Still a long way to push and a very narrow canal. At least the end of it. Hyenas have also got quite an invasive placenta. When I say invasive, it means that the cub and the mother share a lot of nutrients and blood, and they affect one another quite extensively. They have a very similar placenta to ours. Whereas other animals, their placenta is not as invasive. There are some layers between the mother's body and that of the sac and the fetus that allow a little bit less permeability. When there's a lot of permeability, then we call that a very invasive placenta. So it's a very taxing experience on the body of a hyena mum. She's looking this way. Oh, no, she's not. Turn around, girl. Just a bit of scratching. At least I didn't see her rolling about in all of the excitement of yesterday. She just gave it a sniff. Come on, this way, this way. Uh-huh. Oh, she stopped for a moment and she's continuing to move west. Yep. And away from the den. Oh well. We tried, and we'll continue to try for the moment we see this cub. But now we're going to leave the den because she has, and I'm going to send you over to Kyle with a bird.
Well, a beautiful scene you have returned to here. And that cloud cover that we have is really playing tricks on our eyes. Like Owen mentioned, it almost looks like it's raining in the distance. What a magnificent scene, the way the light is. Welcome back to Tswalu. And what a fantastic scene we have in front of us. And like Owen mentioned, it looks like rain in the distance, but it's just the way the light is coming through the clouds. But extremely beautiful how it's touching parts of the mountain, parts of the grass, shadows being cast by the trees, shadows being cast by the mountains. There's a lot of activity of these wattled starlings coming through here. And so we've just been sitting still and just listening very carefully and watching in this area because this is super beautiful. So if you think about where we are right now, we are within a vegetative group called the savanna biome. Biome is a terminology used to describe a broad ecological unit, just a major vegetative group. And the savanna biome is a very extensive vegetative group within South Africa. It covers a very large portion of South Africa, and we are set towards the western or arid region of this beautiful and very complex and highly productive vegetative group. So if you take a look at what Owen is showing you just below the mountains, that scene with that sociable weaver nest there is typically on how one can describe the savanna biome. So it consists of a grassy layer or shrub felt, so shrub, smallish bushes, felt open area, and then you have a prominent woody layer of trees. And you can see here there's a dominant layer of grass, and then you can see these beautiful vachilias or camel thorns sparsely to densely set. Is that wildebeest busy stating claim? Very funny, almost like tummy throat bellow. It's like trying to kickstart a motorbike. But we spoke about vocalization, and vocalization is a very important tool used by multiple animals. And so himself, by standing there, he can emit this message without doing anything. So he's minimizing on energy expenditure. He is still protecting his little part of paradise there, but he is sending that message and notifying to any other bulls within this area that I am currently occupying this section. And that message that's being sent out is a very efficient way on how you eliminate competition, physical competition. Animals don't want to engage into physical competition. Only human beings want to engage into physical. Otherwise, if you can displace your opponent via call, just like what was admitted there, that is in a very efficient way or means. By doing so, these lesser grey sharks are chasing each other frantically around here. All those wattle starlings, I mean, there's so many on Tswalu at the moment. It's unbelievable. Baboons in the distance. That troop now is moving southeast. Jen, how can it be so lush? Nature is resilient in so many ways, and you don't need a lot for high biomass. So if you look in this area, we receive between 200 and 400 millimeters of rain per annum, and that's all this place needs to change its coat from winter to that of summer. And rain and including temperature together are very important factors for plant growth. So temperature, obviously from the sun, and then a bit of rain. This high productive area doesn't need a lot. And this is the period in which this area gets flushed with this carpet of green through the summer period, when we have the right amount of rain in correlation with temperature. Those are very important factors to determine plant growth and distribution. Very important factors. But this is where biomass is created. All the energy is created for multiple organisms across the board. It allows everything just to thrive at this point in time. Here comes another group of wattled starlings. Crossing us. Yo. And that baboon just sitting out in that gap. You can see there's a few individuals crossing the little gaps. So rule of thumb, if you ever stuck out in the bush and you don't know what to eat, there's a general rule of thumb that you can go by. You can eat what a monkey eats, but you cannot eat what a baboon eats. And even, the items that a monkey eats, you still have to go through little tests. So if you're ever stuck in the bush and you don't have any food, you can generally watch a monkey and you can consume what a monkey eats, because a monkey's stomach is not as hardy as these individuals. Baboons have very hardy stomachs. They can eat poisonous bulbs, which would be very dangerous to us even. And so their tummies are well adapted to allow them to be suited into different habitats. As where a monkey, his tummy is not so hardy. There's another one crossing. Slowly moving, picking up all the flowers, little insects that are scurrying around on the ground. White-browed sparrow weavers here, just to our right. Just busy calling. Those sharp, jumbled notes. More wattled starlings. And just like how we said good morning to you folks, simple is beautiful. Sometimes you just need to sit and appreciate what is around you at that given point. Yo. Bit of communication going on here. And that sun's starting to warm. A big group of starlings here to the left, that nest there flying over. Phew. What little birdie is that? That's a lesser grey shrike again. Ah, there's a pygmy falcon, Owen. Mm-hmm. Is it a pygmy falcon? Oh, no, sorry, it's a shrike. No, sorry. But it's just so amazing that we can share this with you folks, that this period in which we are in now, where everything is green, everything is lush, everything is making babies, everything is eating, everything is moving. It's just a very busy period on Tswalu. And this is when you need to do everything you need to do, especially in terms of reproduction. It's the most favorable period. If you look at a lot of organisms, they fall into the summer cycle because it's when everything is in abundance. Well, we're going to continue a bit further west here. We're still looking for any cheetah tracks. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Tristan, where he's got some hyena.
Well, as you can see, we've made it to Thandi and cub and, well, hyena that is busy chomping down on the impala carcass. I don't think it's got much space left. Its stomach is so distended, but that won't stop a hyena from trying to gorge itself more. They always seem to find room for another mouthful somehow. At the moment, what's kind of happening is you've got Thandi's cub on the left of the hyena and Thandi on the right of the hyena. Both of them are not easily visible at the moment. The cub is probably more out than anything else, and it's because it started raining quite heavily, and so they repositioned themselves into little thickets. You can just make out his spots behind that little bush there. I haven't seen her yet at all. I just got told by the other vehicles where she was lying, but we haven't even seen her emerging from that thicket. So I think what they're waiting for is this hyena to eat its fill and then hopefully leave some of it that they can run in and grab it and steal it. The problem is where this hyena is dragged it to is very far from any trees. And that means that even if Thandi did run in to grab it, she's got nowhere to go to take it. If it was very close to a big tree, she could grab it and then just take it up into a tree and out of the way of the hyenas, but I don't think she's going to get much of this back. Also, we know with hyenas is that they often pick up the carcass and carry it and take it back to dens, and even if they've eaten enough, they typically are quite happy to carry the carcass around so that they don't lose out to anybody else. But the way that it's eating is that kind of labored, I can't really fit more in, but I'm going to try my very best because I don't want anybody else to have it kind of feeding pattern that they sometimes go through. You can also see how that beautifully kind of carved carcass that cats do where they eat slowly has been completely destroyed by this hyena. They don't have that same table manners where they cut up their food nicely and make sure that it's all kind of clean and eaten with a bit of finesse. These guys are just brute force, and they literally just smash through it and bite chunks, and the carcass gets very tatty. Here comes the cub. Look, the cub is going to try and sneak in on this hyena and see if it can get a scrap. Now, at this age, hyenas aren't that much of a threat. It's able to climb and it can get up into little branches because of its size that mom can't even get into, and so even these small little trees that are around, it would be able to go up there. So it's not too much of a worry that he's sneaking in like this. He might get chased, but he has options, which is always a good thing. But you can see he's a little bit careful, and if really there was a big problem, mom would come in very quickly and start fighting with that hyena. Boy, you're being very brave. Amazing how much lighter he is than her, though. It's unbelievable. He's kind of more white than anything else. Very similar to Mulawati in many ways. He's going to sit there, I think. Amazing. I wonder how many times he's dealt with them. He's obviously learned that there's ways and means to deal with hyenas, and this is one of them, is to be able to just keep a certain distance. You see how he kind of lies down and knows, okay, that distance is far enough. If that hyena starts running from there, he can get away. He's probably learnt already how fast hyenas are, and so he knows that if he lies down and he has a little bit of space to work with, he can get away from them pretty quickly, being a little bit more agile and faster than they are. Shame. I think he's upset that his meal has been taken, but I don't know why he's upset, because his belly is as big as that hyena's at the moment. So both of them seem like they've really had a good feed, even though they're losing this kill. It's not like they lost it straight away. A lot of the times leopards lose their kills pretty quickly, where an animal will run in and kind of grab it, and they haven't even had a chance to feed. At least they have filled up, and the energy that was expended was well worth it. Tundi yesterday was also a little beach ball, so I'm sure she this morning would also look really, really full. Also quite glad that the rain has stopped, if I'm honest. It's starting to get quite hard, and I can see a bit of blue sky now, so hopefully that's going to be the end of it for this morning. It's quite uncomfortable when you've got this hard rain falling, and we didn't have our roofs this morning because it didn't look too bad. It looked quite light and high. Generally, when the clouds are quite high, we don't get too much rain, but it just sort of suddenly dropped at about 5:30, and we started to get this drizzle that started to fall, which is not ideal. Here's Tundi here. She's just in front of me, coming out of the bush behind the hyena. You can just make her out through there. So I think she's realized that there's not much left, but also look at the size of her stomach too. Very, very, very full. Amazing though, you would think that there would be far more aggression around this carcass between these apex predators. Often people can't understand why the leopards don't fight with hyenas and the hyenas don't fight with the leopards. Everyone always thinks that there's this brutality between the two of them, and there can be, but at a carcass like this, the leopards are basically just biding their time, hoping that the hyena leaves something for them to take back. And that's because they know that the hyena physically is too big and powerful for them, and that it's not worth them fighting with. They can hunt and find a carcass another day. They don't need to fight with hyenas in order to be able to kind of get food. So the risk is not worth the reward. And for the leopards' kind of standpoint, is they know that they're faster and more agile than the hyenas, and so while the hyena is eating, it's okay, it's not a problem. But it's about hanging around and being patient and waiting for any sign of food that can potentially come their way that they can then feed off. So that's why you kind of get the stalemate of, and sometimes you'll even find a leopard eating off a carcass with a hyena on the other end. I've seen that before a few times too, if the carcass is big enough. Molly, so other predators besides apex predators would be dwarf mongoose, caracals, wildcats, civets, jennets. So they're the ones that are not on the top of the food chain. They're the ones that are slightly lower down. Now you see this cub is sniffing where the carcass was being eaten initially by this hyena. So it's trying to see if there's a leg. And look at mom. See how mom is coming in? She's like, you need to move from there. That's too close. So she's actually calling the cub, funny enough, and hissing at the hyena, which is basically to say you need to be careful. You can't get that close, because he is very close to that hyena now. But he's going to pick up a leg. There we go. He's got himself. You cheeky little sausage. There he goes, looking very proud of himself as he walks away with what looks like a bone or a piece of scapula or something. There we go. Naughty boy. He's going to go off and eat that. What might happen, though, is him crunching might lead to this hyena actually going there and investigating, which might open the door for Thandi to grab this bigger piece of meat. We'll see how it goes, but that's what might happen. I don't know if it will. I think that the hyena is pretty much happy with what it's got. Thandi's going to lie back down and take it easy. But you see how that hyena is not threatened? If that was a big male leopard, that hyena would have been a lot more kind of nervy about its position and its proximity. Knowing that it's a smaller cat, it knows it holds all the cards and doesn't have to worry about that piece of meat being stolen. Whereas big male leopards might challenge a little bit. You'll find a different disposition from these hyenas if it was the case. Just listen to the power as this hyena smashes through these bones. It's a little bit gruesome, the sound, and so if you are a bit squeamish, I'm sorry. But it's amazing the amount of power that these hyenas have and how they're able to break down even the biggest bones that are on these carcasses. They go through, scapulas and vertebrae and all the stuff that leopards often struggle to crunch down. And so, you'll find that when a hyena feeds, there'll be nothing left of this, whereas if a leopard had to feed off this, they would drop legs, they would drop bits of the vertebra, and the hyenas would then pick it up underneath, whereas now everything is just being crunched down. Hyena, surely you can't fit much more in you. Hyena begs to differ at this stage. It's certainly not shy of ramming down mouthfuls still. I'm surprised, though, with all the crunching and the noise. I mean, you can hear how clear it is for us that other hyenas haven't picked this up and arrived. I feel sorry for Thandi and the cub, because it seemed like they were doing just fine, and then all of a sudden one hyena must have just walked down the right road at the right time and picked up the scent and then found them. But it's starting to rain again, as you can probably see. There's a fair bit of rain falling. Must go away now. Like I say, I can see blue sky around us, but there's one cloud that just keeps pelting us a little bit. So if you do see Gert wiping the lens, like I say, it's just unfortunately part and parcel of being out here in the rain. We don't have our roofs on because it didn't look great. So, didn't look like it was going to rain, should I say. All right, we'll sit here and we'll see what happens. Maybe Thandi will get some of her kill back. Maybe she won't. In the meantime, though, let's send you down to Tswalu and Carl. Oh, a beautiful greater kudu.
a very mature bull. He is in his prime, so 30 plus months. And we can see this is a bull because of that very extensive set of horns he has on top of his head. It's unreal how this animal manages to move through thick bush like it does with that set of horns on top of its head. And typically now in this period of the year you would find bulls being together, or bulls in small groups, bachelor herds. And these might be bulls that are still kind of finding their place within their prime, still coming into their prime. And obviously being in a group you're a little bit safer, safety in numbers. And you have a sparring competitor or sparring partner to build yourself up for when you eventually have to fight for mating rights. Older bulls like to be by themselves and they like to be within the mountains or thick bush. Whereas in females, they stay in these little groups or herds throughout the year. What a magnificent animal to be viewing. Jamie, very impressive horns. Yeah, that is very true. And those are horns that are used as very, very important weapons for these males. Let me just pull slightly forward for us, Owen. So these horns are very important tools or weapons where they will displace and fight other males. Oh, he's running. Sorry, John. Nice and slowly. Hopefully we can get another little gap here. So there's actually 2 or 3 bulls within this little group. There's a pretty good gap. And you can get a rough age on an individual by judging that set of horns. By judging the growth of the set of horns. It's very large ears. You can see how they're independently moving. Another very important tool that a kudu would use through this very thick, tangled bush, which they really enjoy to be within. Oh, you've got the other one. Fantastic. Oh, there he is. Wow. So I didn't even see that second bull. And that's a remarkable adaptation they have, is that their coloration or their coat with their markings allows them to kind of blend in and melt into this environment. But also they enjoy to utilize that freeze behavior. So if there's a threat or a disturbance nearby, that animal would go into the bushes and stand absolutely dead still. And those disruptive markings that it has, those beautiful vertical lines that are running down the ribs, allows that animal just to kind of blend in. And only breaking that freeze motion when it really needs to. Kalahari scrub, I'm busy calling here, on the right hand side of us. Swee, swee, swee. You still got the kudu on? So early morning browsing is very, very important before the heat of the day sets in. And so this is what these 2 individuals will be doing, is moving slowly, meandering through the bushes, browsing on selected all favorite trees and filling up their first chamber, the rumen. And then through the midday period, they'll have a spot where they feel comfortable, feel safe, and at their own time, they can slowly start digesting that material. But then while still being on the lookout for any threats. It's a very efficient system where you can quickly feed, you can digest later, but then also you're extracting a very large percentage out of the vegetative matter that you have consumed. And the more favorite periods are definitely within the early morning, late afternoon sections of the day. And being a browser, obviously, this is perfect for them. Very, very nice selection of different bushes and trees, whereas in their height gives them ability to feed on trees without competition. The only thing that will compete with them is that of an eland. Lambas, what is the lifespan of a kudu? Sure. Let me just think quickly. I'm out of my brain here. Lifespan of a kudu, I would put anywhere 15, maybe 20 years. Obviously, that depends where the animal is as well. Predation rates could change and fluctuate that span. But I would give an animal this size anywhere between 15 and 20 years. Bulls tend to actually live shorter lives than that of females. Obviously, the sheer competition, do you still have them? Sheer competition they have amongst each other is hard on the body. So bulls, I would say, taking that into consideration, between 8 and 15 years, for example, they really do take a battering when it comes to male-to-male competition. We're going to just find another position. Hopefully we can get a better view, but I'm going to send you over to Tristan with the leopard.
Well, it can be tricky with kudu. Like Kyle was mentioning, their camouflage is good, so it can be sometimes hard to get better views of them. They also like to keep things between you and them all the time, much like what our little cub is doing. He's finished his snack, and so now he's come looking for another way to sneak in and get food. But wasn't it fascinating to watch how Tandy reacted when he was sneaking? So she's very relaxed and she's very calm and she doesn't kind of make too much of a fuss about him. But when he got too close, she immediately stood up and was ready to run interference if need be. So it just goes to show what a dedicated mom she is. She's often grumpy with the cubs and she kind of snarls at them and doesn't look like the most loving cat a lot of the time. But when it comes to actually defending them, she was ready to jump in there pretty quickly. And that's probably why she's been able to raise cubs as successfully as she has. She's a very, very clever individual about positioning herself in the right places in terms of male territories. She's quite good at using as much of her territory as possible to shift the cub accordingly. But also, she's got this protective streak, which Karula also had, in order to try and defend and make sure that her cubs stay out of danger when it comes to things like hyenas and the likes. And amazing to watch. Now, as much as it's not ideal that, they lost their kill, in this particular instance, it's not the worst thing. Both of them have fed really, really well, so it's not like they haven't got a lot of food in them. And Hart, who's eating, she's got to feed cubs of her own. And so, in this situation, what we're seeing is kind of, as much as there is this sort of, what would you call it, scavenger mechanism within hyenas, they've too got to survive. And this is one of the ways they do it. So it's not like leopards don't do the same stuff. We've seen leopards scavenge from one another, from cheetah. So, it all goes round. And this is kind of the best case scenario that we could have had because, like I say, both cats managed to get a really good meal. Hart's getting a good meal, which in turn means that when she goes back to the den, either she's going to take bits of this kill back to the den for her little ones, or she's going to be able to provide really nutrient-rich milk, keep herself in good condition, which ultimately leads to the survival of those. So everybody's kind of winning out of this, except for the impala. The impala most certainly did not win in this particular little kind of encounter. And I'm pretty sure that this impala was heavily, heavily pregnant. I don't think it had a lamb just yet. Or it was giving birth at the time, or it had just given birth and it was trying to kind of sit and watch its little one when it was killed, because the two of them, Thandi and Cub, were so full and fat when we saw them yesterday, but not that much of the carcass had been eaten, that I suspect that they had had a lamb in there as well. So I'm glad we didn't see that part. It's always quite traumatic when you watch a leopard pull out a fully formed lamb of a kill that they've made. I'm glad the two of them have eaten. It's always good when we're able to find them. She's so good at hunting that you often kind of just find Thandi with a round, fat belly, but you don't actually see her on the kills. She can be tricky to find when it comes to that kind of stuff. She's often really good at killing deep inside blocks and not leaving too much trace. Looks like a happy cat though, doesn't it? You can see how well worn her bottom teeth are these days. It's part of the reason why I think our aging on Tingana is slightly out. You look at his teeth are absolutely perfect. Now, I know that she might have just bitten something wrong and broken teeth, but if you look at the yellowing and how worn even those broken bits are, in comparison to Tingana's teeth, which are still very long, very sharp, and not quite as yellow as Thandi, and we're saying that Tingana might be the same age as her, I suspect that we might be slightly out on his aging. I think maybe not long, maybe by a year, but still, I think we overestimated his age slightly right in the beginning. And unfortunately, it was just an estimation because we didn't have any sort of facts to go on with Tingana. He was, a leopard that just appeared in this area, and we judged by size and general body condition, which can sometimes be a bit misleading, as we know, particularly with other animals like elephants and etc. Aging of animals can be a little bit harder. Now, a lot of you have also been asking about Thandi's cub and when it will be named and, when that will happen. So there has been a discussion about it. There was a name put forward, but it's an incredibly difficult name to pronounce. And so I think it's going to be re-looked at, and there's going to be a decision made on that fairly soon. So you should receive a name fairly well in the next little bit. It's up to the Djuma guides. Even though James was the first one to see this little cub, much like Kalamba, we allow the guides that actually work in the camps to put forward the names rather than ourselves. And so we'll just wait for the Djuma guides to kind of come up with another couple names before it will be decided. Generally, cubs are named at a year old. I mean, he's now about 8 months, so somewhere there, 7-8 months. So he's still a little bit shy of the year mark, but because obviously we spend time with them, and now with our traverse on Torchwood, we're spending more time, it'll be nice to kind of get a name out there. So we'll try and see when that's going to happen. Like I said, they are talking about it, and they are trying to work on kind of coming up with a few names for him. He's been a bit tricky because no one's really spent a lot of time with him. He's been on Torchwood a lot and hasn't been found nearly as regularly as some of Thandi's other cubs, but we'll see how it goes. There was talks of naming him the Shangaan word for rocks, which I thought would be quite interesting because it's a very difficult word to pronounce. But it would be interesting because his older brother, Tamba, is also basically Shangaan word for boulder. So if he was called Rock and the other one was called Boulder, it would kind of be a theme that would run through it. And it's because Thandi often uses rocky areas for her cubs. She used a rocky section to have Tamba in Chitwa camp. There's a room there that's called Boulder Suite or Tamba Suite. And that's kind of why he got the name. And this one is because he's always around First Rock on Torchwood and the rocks that are in that particular area at the dam where we had the lions the other day. So that's why it was thought that they were going to kind of name him that. But we'll see. Like I say, it's still kind of work in progress, and it's not been 100% confirmed just yet. He's cute though. I like him. Luckily spent a fair amount of time with him of late, which has been quite nice. He's got his mother's charm and kind of mischievous streak of some of his siblings like Kalamba. But you can see he's a smart boy. He knows what he's doing in terms of what he's trying to achieve. Amazing that he's sneaked up this close. All right, we'll sit here and be patient. Let's see what plays out. I suspect this hyena is going to finish everything and these leopards will depart, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
We've seen these ellies really chase wild dogs before. Let's get into the spot. There we go, here it comes. Look at that, isn't that amazing?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Here we have a nice bachelor head of impala. The one with the floppy ear. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Look at that. Remember, we had a lot of floppy-eared lambs last year and the year before. I wonder if this is one of them. Having a floppy ear is obviously not a good thing. It means there's a malformed cartilage in the ear that's not supporting it, because if your ear is floppy, then you're not able to pick up sound in the same way that a non-floppy ear is. It's not beneficial. In fact, domestic dogs having floppy ears is as a result of domestication and breeding, and not actually something that dogs have always had, because floppy ears are not beneficial. You can't collect sound in the same way. And then traits like this, malformed cartilage, when you keep breeding and domesticating, then those recessive traits become dominant, and you end up with really cute dogs with floppy ears, but it's not something that's beneficial. Hannah, did you ask why do antelope have their rut in the summer? They don't have their rut in the summer, they give birth in the summer. So for impalas, their rut is around May. And then they give birth between November and December. So their rutting is all the way in May. the different ruts of the antelope will coincide with when, or it'll be the same number of months away from the rainy season, because they want to drop their lambs at a time when resources are abundant. And remember, when I say want to, it's not that they choose to. There are chemical processes in their body that prompts them to behave in a certain way. Changes in day length can trigger testosterone changes and hormonal changes, and that's what kicks off the behavior that we associate with the rut. And it has been fine-tuned so it coincides with the rainy season where resources are abundant. It's always interesting to see how they like to eat the bits of grass that grow on termite mounds, because they're really nutrient rich around there. Sometimes you'll see termite mounds absolutely bare, even around, not just on it, but around it. And I used to, well, before I knew what was happening, I thought maybe it's because there's the soil has changed so much from the termites using it that it doesn't allow grass to grow properly around it or something like that. But in fact, because of the fungus gardens before, because of the use of the termites aerating the soil and all of that, it creates a much more nutritious area for grass to grow. And so it is the first grasses that are eaten. Of course, as soon as we decided that we had to rush home and put our rain roof on, the sun peeked through while it was still raining. And now it has stopped, but there's still some very heavy clouds above us. Liv, you'd like to know if the floppy ear will hinder that individual being attractive for mating. I don't know, although I can't see why it would. In fact, it could go either way. Because maybe it would also show that despite having a floppy ear, this animal has reached its prime in order to mate, which is not now, by the way. He will only reach his prime around 7. That floppy-eared one was probably just about 2. So maybe despite having a floppy ear and not being able to hear as well as the others, which it most definitely does do, despite that, it has still survived, so maybe it will show a good thing. But I wouldn't know, obviously. I don't think it'll be less attractive, though. It'll be more of a problem for that individual in terms of its survival and being able to pick up on sounds that the others, or not being able to pick up on the sounds that the others do. But that's where being part of a herd comes in handy. Because then you can rely on the herd to help you pick up on anything that you don't, and you can just kind of react based on their on their responses. Thank you. I am going to send you over to Taylor. She's got a giraffe, and I'm going to keep on moving south.
Well, we've got an interesting scene on Battalier Road this morning, where we've got the zebra and giraffe, and not the... If you're from South Africa, perhaps you remember them a long time ago. But yeah, we've been sitting with them for about 10 minutes or so now, and we're just about to leave because they all disappeared. But thankfully, something startled the zebra, and they came dashing back out onto the road. And now the giraffe is also sort of feeding there. But not uncommon to see these two species interacting, especially here at Pridelands. I feel like there's a group of about 4 or 5 zebra that always hang around some of the giraffe. And I think that that's a very good tactic. If I were a herbivore or a prey species, I definitely want to hang around with the tallest of the animals and the one that's got fairly good eyesight. And of course, zebra are really good at spotting predators too. So it's a nice little combination that we've got here. Also, all the oxpeckers you can see on the giraffe's neck. Doesn't look like they're doing too much feeding, a little bit in the mane here and there, but I think that they are all huddled up on the various mammals to try and keep nice and warm. Sebastian and I are completely covered up, well, not quite from head to toe because we're both wearing shorts, but the rest of us, our bodies are nice and warm. So there we go, now the oxpeckers started feeding. A couple of them there. I haven't seen any yellow-billed oxpeckers, but strangely enough, I had a dream about a yellow-billed oxpecker last night. I'm not sure what that means. It was on a rhinoceros, and that I don't even really remember what happened to the dream. The only thing that I remember was waking up going, oh, yellow-billed oxpecker, that's cool. I haven't seen one of those for a while. As we normally see the red-billed oxpeckers all the time. What are the zebra doing? I think they're listening to our conversation. They're just keeping a close eye on us at the moment. We've parked quite a far distance away from both of them, just so we can watch them do their thing. Rusticated charm. Goodness gracious, that's a very specific question. You've inquired, how much does a giraffe eat in comparison to a cow? Well, both of them are, okay, so both of them are ruminants, and where I'll go with this, I'll explain now. So essentially a ruminant is an animal with one stomach and has 4 chambers in them. They have got a really, really good digestive system. So they're not going to need to eat huge amounts of, well, in the case of a giraffe, they're eating leaves, and in the case of a cow, normally they would eat grass, but you might find that their diet is supplemented depending what that cow is being bred for. So, like an elephant, for example, is not got a great digestive system, so they need to eat huge quantities, 5% of their body weight every single day. I wouldn't imagine that a giraffe or a cow need to eat anywhere close to that. In terms of vegetable matter, what their intake is per day, I'm guessing now, I haven't got a clue. For a giraffe, I mean, if we look at hippos are eating, 50, 60 kilograms of grass a day. I wouldn't imagine it would even be close to that much, maybe less. Maybe they only need to eat like 30 to 40 kilograms. Not even. I think their digestive system, they don't need to eat even much. Probably less than that. I don't know. A cow, I've got a clue how much a cow needs to eat on average every single day. That's a tricky one. But yeah, both feeding on different things. And I think it's also going to depend on what time of the year it is. Like at this time of the year, everything is super green and lush, and the grass have got great well, probably the time to sort of feed on, full of nutrients, and the vegetable part, or the leafy part of the plant is going to be super good, and then of course all the leaves as well have come through. But in dry season, you find the animals will need to eat a lot more. But anyway, off we go across to Juma to see where Tristan is and what he is doing.
Well, we're with Hart now, but Thandi and Cub have just run off behind us, so we're going to catch up with them rather than staying with Hart. Thandi managed to steal a little piece of the carcass, and then she's called the cub to come and get it. Shame, she was being quite nice to him. She found it and then she started just vocalizing a little bit, and hopefully of this kill. Not that he needs it, I mean, he's a little sausage already. Hart, are you also going to leave now? Are you going to take that back to the den? Might be with Trishala going back to the den in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on where Hart ends up going. Which way you want to go, Hart? You need to decide. Okay, you've decided you want to go that way. Okay, well, that's good because we want to go this way. Now, they ran this way. I can't actually see them anymore. I wonder if they're not in a thicket here. Just going carefully because I can't see them. We know how well they can hide, these two. Trying to hear them. Where did you guys go? The last time I saw them was here. Hopefully they haven't left and we've missed them. I expect that they'll be eating, so they should be here somewhere. Not up that tree, not on those mounds. Jim, it's really dependent on what the meal was before, what availability of food is. All of those dictate.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Tristan back in no time. We are now driving around in the south. I'm not really sure what we'll find. I would love to find some elephants. We've not picked up on any tracks or anything like that. But maybe when we're not sure what we find, that's when we'll find some interesting things. Yesterday it was really nice at the hyena den to see the European roller. Get to put it on camera. I always wonder when hyenas walk away from the den where on earth they go, because they seem to vanish. You would think they'd go to the dam, a treehouse dam, which is just to the south of the den, or I will do that. Theo was just telling me where he thought that the hyenas go because he didn't know we were live. But I'm going to send you over to Kyle and a bird in the meantime.
Beautiful red-crested koran busy darting across the road. Moving to our left. Almost looks like a road runner. So these birds are calling from every single bush at this point in time. And very distinctive call at that. That single whistle drawn out, and then obviously what we really want is the display of this bird, which is remarkable, referred to as the rocket display. So if he goes and calls from there, then we know we might just be in luck. And we've been trying to listen. Is there a distinctive call or a certain repetition of calls before they do this amazing display? So flying vertical for about 30-40 meters, closing his wings, rolling to his back, free falling to the ground, and then about 10 meters rotating and then opening his wings and then landing again. Really spectacular display made via this bird. And displays can be very elaborate if you look at birds across the globe. They can go to the extremes to attract the opposite sex. Please, please, please. We've seen it about 3 or 4 times this morning, and every time we stop and we do a little stakeout, nothing happens. Almost like they know. Come on, Owen. Put your good vibes out there. So you can see the color scheme, how things have changed over the past 30 minutes. It's a very uniform color. There's no bright, beautiful golden tinge to the vegetation anymore. This dominant cloud cover has pulled right over the majority of Tswalu now and is keeping things relatively cool, which is nice. It is always a welcome thing when you've got a bit of cloud cover. But we're going to continue a little bit further south-southwest of here, and we're going to send you over to Tristan with a leopard in a tree.
Well, as you can see, our leopards are now firmly placed up a tree. Both of them got chased, but they've got a piece of meat, and so Thandi on top and cub below, and then the hyenas milling about. They're right in this ridiculous marula, a little baby marula, should we call it that? So you can just make out mom on top, and then below that is where the cub is kind of precariously perched at this stage. Guys, that's really not a lot of meat you've got up there, but why they went up that particular tree, I have absolutely no idea. The problem is I'm sure Thandi will let the little one eat if she can get down and he can get up there. Look, you can see it's a mess of leopards. Oh, that's definitely not going to stay up there. No, he's like, that's mine. I've now taken it. Mom, I don't agree with where you put it. I'm going to eat it here rather. How funny is that? It's the most ridiculous tree possible. There's these beautiful marulas all around here, and this is, in a panic, the one that Thandi has selected to go up, as well as the cub. I don't know where Hart disappeared to. I think Hart has realized there's nothing left really, and kind of wandered off. There was just a bit of skin that Hart was chewing on at one point. There we go, she's going to come down. It'll be a nice descent because we're in the right place for it. Are you going to go down backwards? Well, that's not elegant, Thandi. Not your finest work, I'm afraid. That's probably the most ungraceful exit out of a marula that I've seen in a long time. Not, like I say, not her finest work, that's for sure. See, she's still talking to the cub. You can hear an impala alarm calling at her at the moment, so there's obviously one that saw them up in the tree and is making a bit of a fuss about things. I'm sure it will eventually calm down and stop shouting once it realizes that these guys are not in any way, shape or form going after it. I reckon it will all kind of settle. Little one, are you happy now that you got something up in your tree? Like I said, I don't know where he's putting it. I mean, he has got a full tummy. She's still talking to him. I wonder if she's almost saying to him, you need to come down from there because you're creating a disturbance, which is attracting impalas and making them shout, and that could attract other predators. She's very well could be doing that. It's interesting watching her and listening to her, because she most definitely allowed him to feed off that, but at the same time, she's almost like saying to him, come bring the carcass down, let's get out of the sight of impalas shouting at us, and we'll have a little bit more peace. It seems that the hyenas run away. It'll be a lot easier for him to eat down below, but he's pretty happy up there. I'm pretty sure that piece of meat is not going to last all that long. Let's see if he comes down. Looks like he might. Yeah, he is going to come down. You see, she was calling him as if to say, equally ungraceful. Is that even a word? But seriously, both of them didn't do the best job coming down. Although he did a little bit better, I think. He was far quicker than Thandi was. And certainly, with a piece of meat in his mouth is not as easy. Not that it's a big piece, that's for sure. But the fact that they've both plopped onto the ground and this hyena hasn't come running in again is a good indicator that that hyena is no longer around. Where are you going to carry that off to now? Okay, they're both lying there. Let's reposition and just get ourselves into a slightly better spot. I'm going to just give them a bit of a wider berth. No, don't fight with each other. Mom, be nice. You just let your cub have food and now you're chasing him off his food. Maybe because she's like, I've just taken that up the tree and you're bringing it back down again. I don't know. She's talking to him a lot today, that's for sure. There the two of them are walking. They're going back to where the original kind of site was, where the hyena was eating. I'm sure they're going to go try see if they can find more scraps that they can potentially take, and that each one can end up with its own little piece. The cub is to the right of her, also walking in that general direction too. I was hoping that they were going to just stay in the shade here. It was a nice little spot to have them. Seems like he's found another piece of something, because I see him carrying something in his mouth. So maybe he's also found a little scrap somewhere in there. There's bits of impala all over the show at this stage after this morning's events. The hyenas basically just kind of blitzed this thing and has left pieces of this corpse all over the place. So you see, they're back to where the hyena was initially feeding. I think they're just trying to see if there's any sign of this carcass that is left. Cubby's over there and Mom is there. She seems to be eating something. He's finished whatever it was that he was carrying in his mouth. He's just looking at us now, and she's chomping on, I think, a little piece of skin. But you'll see they'll fight with each other now as he approaches. Just, he's going to go check that spot. I wouldn't be surprised she starts growling at him if he gets too close. Just watch and see. No, he's got his own little piece, so they're all good. All right, well, we'll keep watching these two, see where they end up. It's starting to get warm now, so I wouldn't be surprised that they find some shade and go for a bit of a nap. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Welcome back to Tswalu, and we are just enjoying this eland's been dancing in the wind, and we thought we'd share this with you guys. truly captivating to watch those big palm-like leaves move in the wind. It's something that you don't always physically see, can't physically see it, but watching the movement of those leaves is truly great.
We have a siam or bean beetle. That's on a... It seems to be eating a camelina. It was very blue when we started, and then it just ate away so much. Very cool. Of course now it flies. Would you land again? No. The blue camelinas are really cool. Or blue mouse ears, whatever you like to call them. And I like them because they're blue, and you don't see blue too often in nature. And color is a very, very complex thing. Blue being particularly complex. And the reason things have different colors, apart from the usual, as you know, light absorbing everything else and reflecting this one color, the reason that blue is not reflected often is that for a biological molecule to be a certain shape in order to reflect blue is a very difficult thing in nature. And a lot of the time things that are blue are quite toxic because the molecules that create the color, that reflection that's needed to reflect blue, are uncommon and can be very toxic. In your body, you'll have biliverdin, that is naturally blue. But if you have too much of it, then you'll get excess bilirubin. And you know what happens when you get that? You have that yellowing of the skin or jaundice, so it can become toxic. And it's a very, very interesting how blue became so special. Even in language, blue didn't show up until maybe 2,000 years. Before that in language, there was always black, always yellow. Always black and white. Then red, those things mentioned. But the color blue, not mentioned in any ancient texts. It was sometimes thought of as a shade of black, because people had no context for blue. Even though they would describe, like Homer and things like that, would describe what we know as blue, things that we know as blue, like the sky or the ocean, they would not have a word for it. They would describe it as murky, as dark, as a shade of black. I find that very, very interesting. There's a lot more to it, actually, and I'm hoping that I can prepare a little experiment and be able to show it to you before I leave in a week, as long as I've got everything I need. So I don't want to give too much away right now. There's a little bee buzzing about as well. Where have you gone, little bee? Away. That's where it has gone. Very pretty and very interesting things about blue, and I'd like to continue with them just as soon as I get my experiment ready. But for now, I'll send you to Tristan and his leopards.
Well, while Tswalu looks at pretty flowers, we've been looking at pretty spotted patterns on the coat of leopards. You'll hear every now and then a snorting coming from a impala close by, but you can see Tundi's feeding. The cub was here now, it's just moved off. There's really very little left. They've kind of eaten most of the scraps that were left over. There was a few little bones and shards here and there, but there's really not very much left. The cub has also shown interesting instinct. As soon as the impala started to alarm, it went into the thicket and kind of hid out there, whereas Thandi, far more experienced, she doesn't really worry about it. She knows she's got food, so the fact that an impala is shouting at her doesn't really matter too much now. They've pretty much cleaned up all that was left by this hyena. What it might do, though, is attract that hyena to come back again. Here comes the little one. He's going to join Mom now. So cool to see the two of them together. Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. This is the first time that I've had the two of them together. Funny enough, I've seen the cub multiple times now, but always on his own. Actually, I lie. The first time I saw them was with Mom, but most of the time has been on his own. She's a... Did you hear him calling? She's a businesswoman type. Mom is Thandi. She's got things to do, and so she leaves him a lot on his own, which means I see him more by himself than with her, which is a good thing for him. It means he's learning fast and he'll gain independence pretty quickly because he'll be quite used to not spending too much time with Mom. Look. Oh, that's awesome. So nice when you get to see this, and I'm pretty sure from here they're going to move. I don't think we're going to see them lying up right where this carcass was. I think they're going to start heading off, and I'm hoping they're going to head towards those rocks. She's so grumpy, it makes me laugh. She was giving these poor cubs of hers a hard time. Lola, that's a difficult question to answer. Are we talking historically or are we talking currently? If we're talking currently, we'd have to say yes. There's no other leopards that have a track record like hers in terms of success, and I suspect that you're meaning success in terms of her cubs and ability to raise cubs. Shadulu theoretically could have lost 2 litters already, which is more than Thandi, even though Shadulu's so much younger. Luna, we don't know her track record very much. It seems like she's on her first litter now, but potentially, who knows what's happening with them because she's so skittish. Kalamba hasn't got a litter yet. Sibui's been fairly successful, so Sibui's up there, but at the end of the day, none of them have the age that she's got, so therefore her success rate is just that much better because she's proven it time and time again. And so for me, she would be deemed the most successful. But if we're talking about in terms of hunting and things like that, really tricky to know because unfortunately, or fortunately for them and unfortunately for us, we don't spend 24 hours a day with them every day of the year. And so we don't really know a lot of what goes on. Sometimes we don't see certain individuals for a week, 4 days, 5 days. So who knows how much they kill in those times. So in terms of success rates of hunting, that's always a little bit of a tricky one. She could be feeding off scrub hares every day, which means that she's highly successful as a hunter. But as for us, we just don't notice it or see it, and therefore, we're not kind of giving her the credit that she deserves. Same can be said of Kalamba, etc. But in terms of a leopardess and her contribution to leopard as a whole and the species and raising of cubs, she's one of the most successful that we've had. Even though she's lost cubs in almost every litter, she most certainly has made up for it by at least getting 1 cub into adulthood and populating this area with multiple different individuals. What amazes me, though, is that initially she started out mostly boys, and then she kind of had the 2 girls, and obviously that litter that she lost, we didn't sex them, and now, unfortunately, she lost the little girl out of this litter, but the little boy has survived. So she's predominantly kind of sired males, which have all kind of ended up distributing out of here, unfortunately, because her boys are always so pretty. But you see the color difference today. It really is noticeable when the 2 of them are together. My boy, you are a little saucy. Are you going to come say hello? Hello. You're being an absolute little champion of late. isn't that incredible to think that, a few months ago, no one could go near him, but for me, I've never had really a sighting of him being unrelaxed. He's pretty much been chilled every time I've had him. I mean, even that very first time when he was still a tiny cub and he was sitting on that little log by himself and he didn't even move when we kind of drove along, which is very unusual for small cubs of 3 months old or 2 months old or whatever it was at that stage. And he just sat there like a little champion, and since then every sighting I've had has been, him being fairly chilled, which is really cool. But like I say, I think that they're going to start moving. You'll find that this little cub might be under. Maybe they'll go for water. Often when they finish kills like this, they decide to go and have a little drink. And I think she'll want to move him back towards the drainage line, where it's a lot safer than up here and out in the open. Hello, girl. Oh, she is beautiful. Never grow tired of seeing Thandi. It's always nice when you get to spend time with your favorite cat out here, that's for sure. Just got to wait for her to move because she's right behind us, and then we can start moving as well. The problem is the way that they're heading is that the signal becomes a little bit all over the... So I'm hoping that it towards the rocks.
Welcome back, everyone, to And Beyond Phinda. It's been a while. Apologies. We managed to find that female cheetah with the 3 tiny little cubs, and we did try our best to show them to you, but unfortunately out here in the bush with the modern technology, our cell phone signal was really poor there, and so we were unable to get them, and then they disappeared into some thicker bush. But we've moved on for now, and we have come across these giraffes, and what caught our attention was a male, a big bull, walking side by side with a female, and they were touching bodies, and the male was almost herding the female, which was quite interesting behavior. I think that male was courting the female for mating. And that is a big male that's chasing the females now. So he might have caught her scent and smelled that she is in heat or is coming into heat. And it looks like he's definitely pursuing her, trying to seduce her. And there's actually, oh no, those are 2 bulls at the back. So there's a pair in the front, and then a second pair that's running now. And then lagging behind at the back is 2 bulls that are, I think, also interested. And these bulls will compete quite viciously for the mating rights of the females. But I wonder if that might have already happened, because the bulls at the back are, every time the bull in the front turns around and looks towards them, they stop following. Now these giraffes look as though they might be heading towards some water. There is a little pan in the direction that they're going. They do, don't they? Download is just saying that they look as though they're running in slow motion. And of course those big bodies take quite a lot of energy and effort to move. But when they do move, it's deceptive. They almost seem to be moving in slow motion, but they can move very fast. A giraffe can run really, really fast. Just because of the size of the legs and the length of the strides, they can easily hit 80 or 90 kilometers an hour.
They're definitely going for a drink, eh?
Yeah, they look as though they're heading straight for the water. Well, certainly that cow in the front. I think the bulls are following behind for other reasons. See, approaching the water quite cautiously, checking the surroundings. Gianna, thank you for the question, asking how much does a baby giraffe weigh when it's born. So when they're born, they're already around about 6 feet tall, and they weigh in the region of 100 kilograms, so somewhere between 85 and 100 kilograms when they are born. And then they can double in size within a year, which is crazy. Like to go from that's in terms of height. They will go maybe 4 times their weight in the first year, but they will go from 6 feet, and then once they're 1 year old, they can be as tall as 12 feet by 1 year. But at 12 feet tall, their weight will be somewhere around 700 or 800 kilograms. Also, interestingly, that bull was the first one to drink. Maybe the cow's a little bit more nervous, a little bit more wary of the area. And bull's going down for a second drink. And watch for the flick of the head when he finishes drinking. Alpha Dog is asking, how do giraffes defend themselves? So, do you remember earlier I was saying that these giraffes would have fought viciously for the mating rights of the female? When they fight with other giraffes, and only the bulls fight, they will use their horns on top of their head, or ossicones, and they will swing their long neck and knock into each other's bodies with their horns. But that's just for fighting with one another. For defending themselves, those long legs can move pretty quickly and independently in different directions, so they have a very powerful kick with hard hooves, and so they will kick viciously to defend themselves, but they will run away. So their best defense is to spot the predator first, which they're able to do by being so tall. So they defend themselves by being able to spot danger easier because of their height advantage. But then if they do encounter something dangerous, they will kick and they will try to run away. See some zebras joining the party. Paul, That's quite a specific question. How hard can a giraffe kick? So I don't know if anyone has ever measured it, but I've seen videos of giraffes actually kicking lions and knocking the lion out. So the giraffe actually kicked the lion and it hit it in the head, and the lion actually passed out. The lion did wake up afterwards, but it's hard enough to knock something like a lion out and potentially kill a lion. It can kill any animal actually if it hits it in the right spot in the head. But I would say, if I had to answer your question, how hard can a giraffe kick? They can definitely kick hard enough. Yeah, that's a beautiful scene with the zebras drinking as well. See the giraffe, some of them checking the surroundings, making sure it's safe before they go down for a drink. And these animals like zebras and impalas will stick around with the giraffes because they know the giraffes have that height advantage, and they will learn to watch the giraffe's behavior and body language. If they see the giraffe stop what it's doing, stare in a certain direction, then they know that maybe the giraffe has seen something, then they should also be alert. This is going to be cool if this giraffe with its back facing towards us goes down to drink as well. You got a front and a back view and a side view. Look at that, how it's positioning its legs. Yes, these giraffes definitely are beautiful. Download, thank you. And it's always a treat to see them drinking. It's so unusual and they look so awkward, but still graceful. It's quite a process for them. See how they slowly inch their legs further and further apart until they're low enough that they can just bend the legs a little bit. Oh, and that one has actually managed to separate its legs wide enough that it doesn't have to bend them. Yes. Can imagine the pressure on that giraffe that's got its leg locked on that joint. Okay, so yeah, I think we're going to be moving on from here and seeing what else we can find in these open areas.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, it's a good time to potentially find eddies now that the sun is coming out. They might make their way towards waterholes. You can see Tundi's cub is just moving. Mom is also calling, and they're kind of getting up and moving around quite a bit now. So I don't know how long they're going to stay in this position, but we'll have to try and figure out a way to kind of follow them within the random little signal dips that we get here. I can actually see her moving as well. And just lying down, the two of them have just joined quite far to the left. But let's see. I'm going to try and reposition and see if we can get there without any worries. It seems ridiculous that we're in blazing sunshine, have got rain covers on now, but crazy to think that it was raining earlier. Able to catch up with these two because they are right here. I'm going to go forward a little bit, just there we go. Tundi's actually loving him for a change. He's even getting a little groom rather than being growled at right now. Check it, that is. He's like looking up at her as if to say, please groom me, I'm full of blood and bits of meat. I just want to be clean. Groom my ears and my face and get rid of all the stinky stuff that's on me. Looks like he's absolutely loving it. Also, he might have got a few ticks around the back of his ears and the back of his neck. Isn't that sweet? I think we can actually get a slightly better view, Gert. Let's just go forward a bit where the grass is not so long. Should be good if we go over here. I'm going to get, there's a nice little gap where there's no grass, because they are lying exactly where the cars have driven, which is a treat. So we've got a perfect view of the two of them interacting. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? He looks as though he's the happiest cub in the world right now, getting love from Mom. She's grooming him properly. A nice little bath that he's getting. Is that nice, boy? I wonder if he'll reciprocate and try and help her out and see if she can kind of get a bit cleaner as well. Often they have blood all around the sort of ear area, around the chin and the neck, and those are places that they struggle to be able to get rid of. And so you'll find that they kind of rely on each other to do that, as well as any little ticks that maybe have congregated. And you can see as she licks, you see how the fur is pulled in one direction and kind of cleaned out. Amazing how effective those hooked little tongues are with these guys. He's getting so big now. When you see him sitting next to Mom, it's difficult to believe he was a little fluff ball a few months ago. So Tom, the average size of leopard litters here in this part of the world is 2. You can get 3, it's possible, and even 4 has been recorded in certain parts of Africa, but generally 2 is the average. Find that most females will produce that. But what's interesting is that generally when they have their first litter and their kind of last litter, it can often just be 1, and then in between they produce the 2s and 3s. Tundi typically has produced 2 all through her life, bar Kalamba. But Kalamba we don't know, because the first time we saw Kalamba was a lot older than this cub, the previous litter, and litters before that. So we're not 100% sure. Why are you being grumpy, girl? Don't be grumpy. You can hear her growling. So her previous litter was, her previous litters have all been 2 bar Kalamba, but like I said, Kalamba was quite old, so it's possible it was 2 and we just didn't see the second one. Maybe it was killed before, I don't know. But every other litter we know of with Thandi has been 2 individuals. It'd be really amazing to have a litter of 3, but it's funny, with litters of 3, there doesn't seem to be that much success with them. All the females that I've seen that have had 3 have really struggled to raise all 3 of them. You end up with 2 or 1 out of those litters, or none, but I've never really seen 3 adults together. Look, he's going to come in for a bit of the typical Thandi smile. Oh, this is so magic. I've been waiting for a sighting of the 2 of them like this together. I keep finding them separate, but I've been wanting to see them having a bit of a kind of mother-son time, even though Thandi doesn't seem as though she's that enthralled by it. She's probably saying, you have him for a day and see what it's like. But it's always precious to watch the kind of interactions of a cub with their mom. That tail is. Thandi, stop being so grumpy, girl. The flies are irritating her. They're obviously landing in her ears and her eyes and on her nose. So you see she's trying to catch them every now and then. Guys, are the flies too bad? There's also quite a few Mapani bees hanging around this morning, or stingless bees. They've been landing on us as well, so I think between the flies and them, pretty sure she's getting thoroughly irritated. There'll also be quite a few flies, given the fact that there's bits of meat that have been left strewn all over the place that maybe they haven't even found. And then from there, they end up finding these guys and causing a bit of an issue. But you can see those bottom 2 teeth that I was talking about earlier quite clearly now. You see how worn they are. Both of them are broken. That's not from general wear and tear. If you look at her upper 2 canines, they're far better. But those lower 2 have the tips are broken off, and that's quite indicative of an older leopard. They often do chip and break their teeth. I mean, you can see the kind of meat and bone structures that they chop through. Tooth often is chipped when that happens, but their 2 top canines are in fairly good nick. They're not as bad as what the 2 bottom ones are. Why are you being so grumpy with him? He's not even doing anything. I think she's growling now because there's a squirrel alarm calling, so maybe she's just double checking that there isn't something around, and I think she just wants to sleep. She's full, she's hot, uncomfortable. I don't think she wants the attention of her little boy, that's for sure. Surprised though that they're hanging around. I thought they would have gone from here straight towards the rocks and down into the drainage line, where it's a lot cooler than up here, and also be far less irritating insects as well. Okay, well, we'll sit with them. We'll see what they get up to. They've just kind of disappeared behind some shade. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Carl.
Well, welcome back to Tswalu, and what a beautiful scene we have here in front of us. The wind's picked up quite strongly. But that's perfect for these guys. They're out in the open, obviously. That's a very... Oh, wow. Someone just spooked in there. Can we just pull slightly forward for us here? lovely little group.
I think so.
Excuse me?
I think so.
Oh, there. The southern oryx. Your stocky individual. Stocky male. Just encased in a sea of green and yellow. So you can see from the past couple of days that we've been looking at flowers how prominent the yellow scheme is. With all the flowering tribulus at the moment, a very prominent flower within areas such as this. He's looking over his shoulder where his herd members are going. Sure, how beautiful is that? You can see a nice bend within his horns. It's a very tricky way in which one can ID male and female. But the way he's looking at us head on like that, you can see that if you run up the horns, that there's a slight, thank you, there's a slight bend midway up those straight horns. They're not perfectly straight, and so males have this almost bell shape within the structure of the horns, where females will be almost dead straight. And if that is a bit tricky, you can obviously always use the belly button. See the belly button, that'll be the penis, then running back into that is the penis sheath. Very easy way on how to ID these individuals. Ears locked onto us, trying to suss out what are we doing. Oh, and taking us over to the springbuck over there. Little group taking it easy as well. Just like I mentioned, this is the period which they'll be ruminating. And this is a very small little group. Very beautiful species of antelope. So looking at the mix, Maya, what is the difference between a springbuck and a Thompson's gazelle? Well, they fall within the gazelle family, and the springbuck is a southern species, whereas the Thompson gazelle is in East Africa. But they fall within the greater gazelle family, where within this family they'll all possess certain characteristics, which would be body shape, and as well as that beautiful patterning or coloration that they have. Thompson's gazelle is found up northeast of the country, and then the springbok is a southern species which is found here in South Africa. And I mean, this group, that gazelle group, comprises of 13 different species, and all have obviously striking and similar appearance. And that springbuck only the springbuck occurring out of the gazelle family in South Africa, hence the name springbok. It's an Afrikaans word, translated from Afrikaans. Spring is to jump, and bok is buck, jumping buck, and that is from the behavior of these animals displayed when they are excited or when they're trying to evade predators. Pronking, very, very beautiful behavior. We're going to send you over to Grant and a very interesting animal.
Look at this rhino, everyone. And let me know if you think it's a black or a white rhino. Don't be fooled. You see at the moment it's feeding on the ground. So its head is down towards the ground. Just the ears flicking every now and then, but pay close attention to those ears, the shape of the ears, and look at the back of the rhino. And you'll see just through the trees there, hopefully we get a clear view now. Look at the back of the rhino, it's got quite a deep saddle in it. Just giving us a glimpse there. And try to look at the shape of the ears, they're quite rounded. Very difficult to see the mouth at the moment. Oh, there, you might have just seen in that little gap. Oh, spraying urine, look at that. It's a territorial bull that's scent marking. Now you might be fooled by the fact that its head is down towards the ground, more typical of a white rhino, but this black rhino is actually feeding on small shrubs that are starting to grow in amongst this grass. Tiny little saplings that are just sticking out above the grass. They will be nice and soft and juicy, full of moisture and nutrients, and we did have a little sprinkle of rain last night, so should be nice and yeah, full of moisture. Now those rounded ears are typical characteristic of the black rhino, but that deep saddle in the back from this sort of range is the biggest giveaway for us to say that it's a black rhino. Unusual habitat in the slightly more open vegetation. And you've joined us at a very good time because it was actually sleeping when we first found it. And it seems like he's gotten up now. We just saw him spraying some urine, so he's doing a bit of scent marking. Thank you, Lincoln. It is definitely a rhino. That's very well done. And he's just slowly moving and feeding. And if he comes across while he's feeding, if he comes across any prominent landmarks in the area, any prominent bushes, maybe he'll pick up on the scent of another rhino. He will spray urine there. Because he is a territorial bull, so he will be making sure that he looks after this territory, making sure that no other rhinos come into his territory. Well done, everyone, for getting it right. It could throw you off with its head being down towards the ground, but oh, there, another spray. And another, and another, and another. Well done, everyone, for getting it right, identifying it as a black rhino. Now, there is another road where that rhino is heading towards, and so I'm quite keen to see if we can get another view of him. We're going to just carry on along this road and turn down to the direction that he is going. And so I do apologize if we lose you, but I think for now I'm going to send you off to another location.
Well, a beautiful scene we've got going over here. I'm just going to enjoy this for a couple of minutes with you. simple is beautiful. Definitely is out here. But thanks for joining us on that wonderful and special moment.
I have finally found a steaming hot pile of dung. It looks like elephants walked through here. There were lots of tracks, but they've gone north. At least they've left their dung behind, and the dung beetles are making good work of it. They're a little difficult to see, as they bury themselves in the dung, trying to find the ideal ones. Ideal bits to scoop up and make into a ball. Oh, there's some more. These look like large copper dung beetles. We get them, they're pretty common, and plum dung beetles. Very common as well. Lots of flies, that tells you it's nice and fresh. I love to see them building their balls. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a fight. Oh no, sometimes it reminds me of like WWE when these guys fight because they throw each other off. You can do it. There we go. Go and make your own dung ball. So since we've been sitting here, there's only been one successful dung roller. Oh, I love watching them. So they have specially adapted front legs that are looking comb-like, and that's just perfect to pull dung towards them and roll it into a ball. And then their head is also flattened to be kind of like a scoop. Also assists them. And with these dung beetles, these large copper dung beetles, it's also comb-like to pull. Download. You'd say you love to see dung beetles fighting. It is very entertaining to watch them fight. They really know how to throw it down. And look how it starts so small and then gets bigger and bigger. Kelly, you'd like to know if they're fighting over the dung balls? Yes, because you'd much rather have somebody else's dung ball that they've already rolled and you putting in effort. And you'll find them doing it quite a lot. It's kind of like a bit of a frenzy when all the beetles are at a site with all that dung. And so everybody wants to go at it. I find that the fights usually happen more frequently when the dung balls are still pretty small, when it's already gotten started. So I wonder if getting it started is more difficult than attaching more dung onto it, because when it's larger, there's fewer fights in what I've seen. want to know, oh, why are they fighting when there's plenty of dung for everyone? Because if I have to, I don't want to start over. Some dung beetles don't want to start their own ball. See, this one's gotten thrown off that one who has the bigger ball, and now it's starting to make its own one. So you might as well first try to steal someone else's than to begin your own, especially if you're a new arrival at the dung site. So interesting to watch them. Look at them pat, 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 pat with those front legs. And you know that the dung is quite moist. So after they've rolled it into that moist ball, rolling it over the sand when they take it away, that kind of creates a hard outer shell. And those dung balls can be very, very hard. If you find one, it's smaller than a tennis ball, just smaller, but they're very, very hard considering that it starts off with just soft dung. And they've really got the process down. Luke, you'd like to know what the lifespan of a dung beetle is? Adults will generally live to about 2 years. That's a pretty good amount of time, I'd say, for an insect. Instead of just one season, they can live for around 2 years. I love how they were not always attaching new bits of dung. Sometimes they're just neatening and patting down areas that are a bit untidy. Like there, look at that. So busy and so interesting to watch them just work. Oh, there's a smaller one. Liv, you say they have a really nice iridescence on their shells, on their exoskeleton. Absolutely. Dung beetles have really, really, really nice colors, and lots of them are very shiny. I like the green ones. There's green dung beetles. There are red ones as well. They're all very beautiful and shiny. Insects are particularly good with having those kind of exoskeletons because that kind of color results from those microstructures on a surface. And because they have this chitinous exoskeleton that's hard, those microstructures are much more easy to produce than on feathers and things like that. So they have a really awesome, very bright metallic color. And most pigments in nature will fade over time if the animal is dead. And you'll find that museum insect collections and beetle collections are some of the most magnificent because they can keep that color. Rolling Rob, you'd like me to explain a little bit about their navigation methods? Well, firstly, they're astute navigators. So what they'll do, and I'd like this one to finish so we can actually watch as they go. But as they roll, they'll tend to roll in a straight line. Oh, there it goes. One's on its way. Okay, so they'll tend to roll in pretty much a straight line. That doesn't always, it's not, a ruler straight line, but in a general direction. Even if that means they've got to go over some hump or whatever, and they could just go around, they'll tend not to. And that's because if you follow one direction, if you are always following the path of the sun, or if you're looking at your shadow and you know that if the shadow is always on your right hand side or whatever, you're moving in a straight line. They do this with the moon also. They use the stars as well. The main thing is to use a straight line. And because they're always with their face to the ground when they're moving, they'll pop up like that every few meters. Even less than a few meters and more often. They'll pop up to the top of the ball, move themselves around, and by moving around on the top of the ball, they're actually recalibrating. Okay, where am I? Where's my shadow again? Where's the point I was looking at? And then back down and push. And now, I've moved off to the wrong end. Then it will get back on top, have a look around again, recalibrate, and then start. It's fascinating, really is. Anyway, here we have elephants or the dung of elephants, but over at one of our other locations, we actually have some elephants. So why don't you go over?
Welcome back, everyone. And you unfortunately missed that little European bee-eater swallowing his kill. Wasn't able to see exactly what it managed to catch, but we were just sitting watching these elephants, and this bee-eater came swooping down and landed, and I noticed that it had something in its beak, and it was knocking it against that little branch that it's sitting on, and then eventually just swallowed it whole. But look at those big elephant bulls. The one in the middle has got very impressive tusks. And you might hear some beautiful bird calls going around us. It's a stunning scene. Looks like they're feeding on the guaris, which is quite interesting. And we are going to lose them shortly behind the trees. And it seems like the wind is picking up a little bit at the moment. And I wonder if they might be heading for the tree line to get out of the wind. I'm just going to try and move us back a little bit, but we might have to go forward. But I'm going to just try and go back a little bit and see if we can get another view of them. Between us and them there is a drainage line and some pretty thick trees, which I thought they might be heading down into to get out of this wind. I think while we try to get another view, because it might take a little bit of maneuvering here, I'm going to send you across to Tristan with a hyena.
well, what we wanted to happen has happened, but it's just a little bit late in the day. But Tundi and Cub have come down towards the rocks where there's this beautiful little water point. You can see Hart is here just having a wallow, which is very typical of hyenas when they've eaten a lot and it's warm. They like to get into the water, but the Cub just approached right now to try and drink, and then there was a bit of a snarling match between the hyena and little Cub. Well, the hyena didn't really care, but the little Cub got a bit of a kind of scared and as it came down to the water itself. But both of them are in the back there, in amongst those trees. You can just see little ears and kind of sticking out. Isn't that cute with that little ear? So both Mom and Cub are under that tree. I'm pretty sure they're just waiting for the hyena to leave, and then they'll drink nicely, and then from there, I'm sure into the drainage line like we suspected. But I wouldn't be surprised if they end up sleeping there most of the day. It's a beautiful little shady spot. They've got water close by. They're full, they're fat. There's really no need for them to be moving around too much. It is exactly what I was hoping would happen, would be that they came this way and ended up drinking. But I think is going to go to the top. There's going to be a little water point on top there that maybe that's where she's going to head. Both of them are going to go. Oh, it'll be nice if they drink from on top. There's a beautiful little water point on top there that is spectacular from a kind of visual point of view, although she might just go to the nearest shade and lie down. I think she's had enough of this little one today. She keeps growling and hissing at him every time he gets anywhere near where she is. All right, let's see. She's going past. Let's try to get up this rock and towards them. It's quite a climb that we've got to do to get up there, but we will be able to do it no problem with this car. All right, I'm going to try and catch up with those two. Hopefully they're going to come and drink from one of these little water points on top here. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you across to Kyle.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Kyle and Tswalu back in no time. The sun is blaring on the road at the moment, and my eyes are very uncomfortable with it. It happens occasionally when we're out here. I don't know if it's just the angle or what it is. It can be quite painful. We're chatting about the navigation of those dung beetles, and one other thing I wanted to mention is that they have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria, microscopic organisms, and it seems to assist them in navigation too. How it assists them, we don't know. And the only reason that was figured out is because dung beetles do such a good job of repurposing dung. Obviously. So they were taken to Australia to try and do a similar thing for cow dung. And it was found that the dung beetles were not able to actually transport dung away from the sites. They had trouble navigating. They couldn't get away with it. So they were basically there and now useless because they were not taking the dung and repurposing it and using it for other things. And then it was discovered that it was because they were quarantined and obviously treated in some way. There's lots of ways that Australia treat different organisms that come in order to make sure it doesn't carry any pests or anything that could destroy the sensitive flora and fauna in the country. And when that was discovered, then they brought in dung beetles and didn't have them treated in the same way, where the bacteria was still available on them, or the microorganisms, and then they were able to navigate. So obviously, it affected their navigation, this symbiotic relationship with microorganisms. Just having a look at the hole. There's a tiny little hole in that log where we saw the two western yellow-bellied sand snakes. There were two in here the last time I checked. Since I've been coming, well, since we saw the two of them, I haven't seen them since. Oh, we should pop their head out. But no such luck today. I haven't seen them for some time, so it's okay. I'm hoping we find more dung balls like that. Nice fresh dung, because when you see the different array of dung beetles that are there and the different sized balls they roll, and that's very, very exciting. Some of them get to the ball from underneath, and you'll find tunnels underneath the dung, and they pop out from underneath and then just keep bringing dung back down. That's a really cool question, because we don't actually say that very often. You'd like to know if elephant dung is the only dung that dung beetles use. No, it's a herbivore dung in general. So if there's a nice fresh buffalo dung, if there's nice fresh buffalo dung's a little bit runny, but I have seen it, and impalas as well, their dung. I've seen zebras. It's just that it has to be nice and wet and fresh. It's just a dung beetle there with his ball. It has to be really nice and fresh, otherwise it's very difficult to roll the dung. This one looks like it's taking a rest. Must be tiring, rolling a dung ball around all the time. Shame, I hope it's alive. Seems strange. If it did die, to die like that. And if it is tired, one would think that it would stop in the patch of shade that's just a meter in front of it. Oh, yay, it is alive! Actually, I wonder if you're trying to bury your ball. It's got a long way to go to bury it. They can dig very well, but of course it does take some time. The final product is just so neat, perfectly round and smooth. I'm sure it takes a lot of patting and neatening to ensure that kind of roundness. So wonderful to see so many dung beetles. Just love it.
An opportunity just to look and observe the beautiful shepherd's tree. That's what we're doing right Tswalu, we're just going to observe this beautiful shepherd's tree for a few minutes.
Sorry about that, guys, but it is coming to the end of show. Everyone will be...
I thought maybe it was a little baby that I'd missed. Right, unfortunately it sounds like we've lost Tswalu. We just left Tandian Cub. They went into this bush that literally there's no view of at all. But here's another leopard somewhere here. Where has it gone? So a very small leopard, a little round one. You see it, Kat? A little bit forward. You can. Not easy to see because of the fact that it's right next to the car, so I'm not sure Kat will be able to get it. But yes, a leopard tortoise that is walking there. We had the cub and Mom drinking on a little puddle, but it was just not an easy visual at all. Now it is that time though where we are setting for home, should I say. But it's just a quick reminder that we are going to be starting half an hour later this afternoon and the sunset safari, so the drive will be half an hour later for everybody, just so that you know. You can spread the word so that no one kind of logs on and thinks nothing is happening. We will be going deeper into the night to see what that brings us. But what an absolutely epic morning, well, for us particularly. Really, really nice to have spent it with Thandi and Cub and obviously this little tortoise now, which is always really special. It sounds like there was lots of other things all over South Africa, which is always a treat. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari.
That's what I'm looking forward to. But this gorgeous view needs a couple seconds to be taken in. I think it's stunning. Oh, won't you all jump on board for your live safari through the African bush?